What up? I'm a professional game design student. It is actually my title, so I'm making Nintendo a favor and designing Tomodachi Life 3 for them because apparently they can't. Seriously, Nintendo, we kinda need it. It's a good game, one of my favorites, so I said, hey, screw it, I'll do it myself. And now here we are. Let's figure out a potential Tomodachi Life 3 for the Nintendo Switch. Yes, number 3, Tomodachi Life is a sequel to Tomodachi Collection on the DS. So put down your angry comment and enjoy this video instead, my dude. Actually, wait, hold on, let me roast this marshmallow on your burning stick. Thank you. Usually you'd go about technicalities here like game concept and sales pitch and whatever, but that doesn't make good content. You know what does? Mii's. The first thing you do when you play Tomodachi Life is technically make your own lookalike. And let me tell you, the Mii Maker needs an update. And I'm not talking about face paint like the one in Miitopia to make those crazy Mii's, though I will bring this up later. I'm talking about this. Why is there 12 heads? Can't we get 18 going? Face marks and makeup, why aren't they movable? They should be. Or like skin color, why is it not fully customizable until Miitopia? Hair options need to be improved, especially long-legged hair for women Mii's. Mouths, beards and mustaches should be more complex and varied, just still kinda basic shapes. I don't want any of those weird Miitomo mouths. I understand that this sounds like a general improvement that anyone can think about, but the reason Nintendo is so limited with their own Mii editor is because they want simplicity. A million options right away are if nothing overwhelming to newer players. It'd be easy to scare them. Besides that, the fun part of Mii's according to Nintendo was always the idea of using limited options to make recognizable faces. They may look like random choices of eyes and mouths to you, but Nintendo carefully chose based on features that archetypes and famous people would commonly have. Of course, having full creative freedom is something people adore now in character customization, so this 2006 design philosophy will be better met halfway. If you give the players too much detail, these guys will stop feeling like Mii's, but the current limitations are just far too many. So, to solve the issue of things becoming overwhelming for new players, you now have to unlock Mii face options. You'd start with the ones you see in the original editor for Tomodachi Collection. These options are basically the ones from the original Wii, but of course, for the sake of consistency, colors and positioning of all of these items will now be their updated restrictions. One idea you could toy with is layering 2, where eyebrows, glasses, noses and freckles could now be sent forwards or backwards to help achieve certain looks. Here's something that they already toyed with in Miitopia with actual face paint, but I mean it in the actual Mii editor thingy. Onto personalities, they will remain the same as they do in Tomodachi Life, because their effect will be more on the gameplay aspect. Perhaps making the selection between them a little more complex and accurate, but I don't know how, so I probably shouldn't bring it up if I'm trying to be formal about this game design thing. But then there's voices, and those are funky, so
Tomodachi Life is very primitive with their TTS system, because it only really has this voice, and it's forced to a limited database of audio chops from it.
And this approach works? It's not bad, but not only do you get a much better audio device now, you also get higher end consoles.
Now, of course, these internet synths being in the game would be absolutely insane, but we have to be somewhat realistic.
These voices take some time to process and train, which we shouldn't really do in a game. So instead,
we should expect a hodgepodge of better quality voices
with different accents that can still be modified through pitch and tone,
but won't be perfect. It's an important aspect to the game, for which I wish Nintendo would think about expanding the reference libraries to something broader. Keep in mind, Nintendo totally has the resources to implement better text-to-speech in this new Tomodachi Life. It's just a matter of whether or not Nintendo fully wants to spend budget and research of that. Certainly there is a charm to the robotic voices, and completely losing that might not be the best idea for the game. Basically, we just have more base voices and we still do the same with more samples to work off. Well, now we're on to setting after that roboty nightmare. One idea a lot of people toy around with is moving the game setting into a city, and while that is pretty cool as an idea, I think it would just keep having the same functionality as it did on the DS. Not the 3DS, the DS. I mean, you are aware that Tomodachi Life on the 3DS is roughly 400 megabytes with updates? It's an insanely light game, but that's obviously because it was bound to being on a system such as the DS and 3DS. Textures, models, and other aspects of the simulation were compressed and confined to fit within the handheld consoles, rendering a lot of details unavoidably lost. Add the size of the screen to the equation, and you really didn't see any reason to be more detailed. Like, you couldn't see more detailed. So maybe we should focus on that? Maybe the focus of this new game should be making everything appear more detailed, and I don't mean better textures and stuff, that's a given, look at Miitopia. I mean, make the design piggyback of the concept of detail. We want to give the player some sort of immersion by letting them feel like they can zoom in on everything, which can help us create an experience similar to Tomodachi Life, but with enough new features to feel completely different. This leads us to the very important task of creating design pillars for the sequel, which I've envisioned for. It has to be detailed, and not by adding more details and stuff, but by having features that expand on the lives of Miis, making everything have that zoom-in idea. It needs to have long-term progression, where the player can unlock different stuff constantly to motivate them to play more, something which is present in a lot of life simulation games and does wonders to engage players. It has to be weird and unrealistic, so basically keep the absurdist tone of the prior games. Surprise the player with the crazy things we can come up with, especially keeping the layered JPEG visual style of items, images and backgrounds. Oh, which also, by the way, this is now simpler because the dev team no longer has to worry about adapting the pictures to 3D. Finally, it has to be accessible, something which I'll explain right here and now because explaining it later would be a little bit redundant. You see, Tomodachi Life had a big problem with locations, removing or adding stuff in each region, and I understand why this was made, but I believe there's a value in exposing people to other cultures. It's a great opportunity for them to learn, and it would also streamline the localization process, which would make it cheaper and also more fun. Nintendo already saw backlash in Tomodachi Life for removing LGBT relationships, as it was rightfully a bug in the game's code, but it makes it easy to assume Nintendo should focus on bringing more variety to Tomodachi Life Miis. People's reactions should clearly indicate this is an aspect people care about. It would improve the gameplay experience for some people, like Fuhashis, and teach us to be more aware of other cultures. All food items and dreams should be international. The only difference that should remain are those involving baths, because the Japanese just bath weird. Oh, and coin difference should also remain, but they should be a setting, not region locked. Then there's the issue of Asiomatics. Personally, I'd remove them because they bring nothing to the gameplay, but if they will remain there, they just shouldn't work on someone who is in a relationship, because Nintendo, kids don't date adults in any region. Yes, people, I know pieces of the Berlin Wall are common all over in Europe. I was just making a joke about how this item brings forth historical implications that some things happened. If you just clicked on a link I sent you, mind watching this video later? So, let's now come up with a name. Calling this new Tomodachi Life or Tomodachi Life sequence is getting long, and also I've been avoiding it on purpose. Let's see. Given Tomodachi Collection and Tomodachi Life added to this theme of detail, Tomodachi Companions. First you collected them, then you live with them, now they accompany you. Good title, isn't it? Notice how this logo also works on the parody changes. America font, but the speech bubble is yellow inspired by the European and Japanese logos. Take this as a first draft, but parody being a design pillar should be shown even in the logo. So they should accompany you in life, which means we'll focus on Miis doing more things that you do in daily life, and you can always zoom in to see what's going on with them, whether they are alone or in groups. And there's also a very cool starting point to this idea. Here's a really cool thing that I gotta show you to really bring this idea to the table properly. The island in Tomodachi Life is pretty cool, but okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 pixels? On that note, what's going on here? They never really explain how they get from here to there. A fake bridge? Is it invisible? Do they fly? They seem to teleport, but maybe they just go by ship? But the pier is here, so... Oh my god. You're telling me I have to climb these steps whenever I want to go shopping? So this thing's getting an upgrade. Seaplane's gone, photo studio's gone cause the Switch's got no camera, import store can go flip and die, kinda. Park's here now, boom, bridge. We're replacing this amenity with something more interesting. Can we compact the housing complex? Here's a waterfall, a river, a lake, some ruins, and maybe let's turn this thing into a bay instead? Boom. Oh, Flora. Whoa, so there's a lot to unpack here. If you're astute, you might be able to tell I separated the island's locations into 4 categories: living, shopping, working, and leisure. The park and fair being the exceptions, having the park in the living district and the fair note being smaller and located in the pier, both to make less noise and to remove the unreachable island. And I guess I should clarify, it is smaller in a sense of compared to everything else, because it is still pretty large. The living district is simple, featuring the main apartment building, which now extends into 2 buildings instead of a tall brick. I like the idea of having an old building and a new building, it looks really cool. Next to it, you'll find the town hall, which will have the same functionality as in Daily Life, toggle settings, view residents, etc, etc. It will also let you customize the town layout for a small fee, similar to the way Animal Crossing does it. You'll be able to swap a few buildings in the shopping and leisure segments, as well as fully customize the houses among the available lots. Talking about that, crossing this small bridge will get you to the housing area, which will begin as a lush forest and will evolve as more Miis move into housing, not shown visually here. Housing in life was annoying. It would occupy a large area of the island but be empty for most players, so houses now have different evolutions. Miis that get along well with one another might choose to fuse their houses and live in the same household, either with shared living or adding a second floor to the house. Sets of buildings can also evolve into larger condos that turn 3 houses into 5, make this a lot more cleaner and customizable. Plus, all the empty lots will actually have something on top of them, say trees and nature and stuff, so it doesn't look quite empty. Now the location of the fountain is here. You can't really see it in this tiny model, but there is a stone plaza here that will eventually have more buildings. Imagine the rap battle location, but the more you play, the more houses you see in the background. It's important to clarify that Miis here will now pay taxes. It is not a donation anymore, which isn't as nice, but it is easier to adapt into other cultures, age rating permitting. Back across the bridge, you might notice this park is now mostly a lake. Even though it's placed alongside all the other leisure amenities, Miis will need to go around in order to get to the lower floor. The park will retain functionality as it did in life, but companions will add lake activities like rafts, picnic boats, and fishing. Yes, fishing. I'll get there in a bit. The newest tower is now a tall building modeled after The Shard in London. It includes a restaurant, an art exhibition, and a cafe. Miis will only gather at the cafe, with the restaurant and exhibition being only for dates and other purposes and also not visual from the map. And yes, I did say other purposes, which I'll get to in a bit. If we walk away from the housing district, we'll see the leisure district. Off to your right, you should see the new and improved concert hall, which now also connects to a theater, which is just a weird bubble here, but trust me, it's cool. Here at the theater, Miis can run through movie events to create movies. Here you get different chunks of the film with customizable dialogue and backgrounds, and you can mix and match those to create your own silly narratives. Music can now also have mix and match verses, where you choose 3 verses of 6, and if your Miis will repeat the chorus more than once. Nothing else to say but to say this building will also host all those census minigames like the questions minigame and whatnot. Past this gazebo suspiciously placed on an otherwise empty plot of land, you'll find the river and the bridge overlooking the waterfall. Another hangout spot and confession site for your Miis. And going further along you can find a campsite, which just like in life, you can get travel Miis through Wi-Fi and they'll temporarily live on your island. Past this is the compatibility tester, which has a third option to see talent compatibility. This is actually a mechanic ripped from Tomodachi Collection job assessment, but it will actually have a use now. Yes, a use, I'll get there in a bit. Let's keep the music in it classical, like the Japanese versions, aka Adeline, aka my claim to fame. Yes, the ruins here are a hangout spot and confession site, but you might see Miis running firework events and barbecues from here now since there's not a lot of trees, as well as seeing them do other activities such as having them explore the ruins or even study them. You drip into the sea, perhaps hiding something else? So, this might have tipped you off, but it is true. This island is completely inspired by WuHu Island from the Wii Fit games and Wii Sports Resort, including the ruins to create the semblance of a past and a unique landform in its geology. I chose this because people absolutely adore WuHu Island. It felt so alive and recognizable, I wanted to create a similar feeling here. This place has got to be memorable and filled with lore, apparently. It is also designed practically for the Miis to traverse. Yes, traverse, I'll get there in a bit. The shopping district is very much nothing unique. I merged the clothing and hat shops into this modern build. They also sell accessories like the ones that did in Miitomo, but you can now mix and match them. Off to the side you can see the interior shop, and I don't know what compelled me to go for this design, but it looks pretty cool. It works as it does in life, but you can now also buy rooms for the Mii houses. You'll notice here a new building across it, the Talent Development Kiosk. This is a complex build that includes a new game mechanic, so I'll explain it later, but you might have a hint already as to what it is given the bit joke. Here's the Wi-Fi tower, which will let you access Wi-Fi after being built. Wow, what a surprise. This works as a new antique selling shop because the future is now, old man. Here you'll select all the items you'd like to sell, but the profit from these sales will be rewarded every 6 hours instead of immediately. This is mostly to get the players to hop on multiple times a day. Tomodachi Life wanted to do this with random events, and this is just a companion to that idea. Get it? Get it? 'Cause companion? Worry not, the wait can be shortened after enough game time because it is technically a pretty bad idea. But you know the drill, in a bit. It will also let you enable and disable features such as visitors and all those other online things. But there's one thing that's returning here that I'm very proud to announce. The return of the Everybody Boats channel, which would be really cool if I was actually Nintendo, but I'm not. So, Everybody Votes channel. Basically, Nintendo would submit some cool questions, everybody would vote, you see some graphs, you go like, wow, colorful graphs! And it would be really cool. Now, you can also submit questions for your friends, you know, the ones in your friend list. So, that's pretty cool. I wanted to bring it back. It was always one of my favorite things about the Wii. Here it is. I wanted to bring a cool monument to this island, but I didn't want to bring something that's tall because we already have several tall buildings in this island. We got like 5, so instead I took inspiration from the Singapore super trees, now called the electric super trees because Singapore does not exist, I guess. This is a hangout spot where Miis will gather in groups similar to the park, but might also come to relax and interact with other Miis. These trees are secretly solar panels that power up a lot of the island, so the island is green. Next to it is the food shop and the import shop, which also work just like they do in life. The import shop actually shouldn't have limited time items. They should simply become seasonal items once they become available. Mostly because I think it's cool to let people try to go completionist on this game. I personally tried it and was very sad when I realized I couldn't because of the import shop. Further down along is the lighthouse. It just makes sense to have one in an island, you know. This is the new high-up location for Miis to visit. It's pretty cool cause every day a random Mii will be selected to turn it on. Don't worry, they got nothing else to do with their time. What does that mean? So, as these Miis are companions to what you do in reality, it's obvious that they will have to go to work. Lucky for them and unlucky for you, the work hours are randomized between 1 to 3 hours between 9 AM and 5 PM. More on this in, can you guess? Yash! A bit! Anyways, the working area is behind the island, though your new 360 control of the map makes it seem less hidden than it actually is. This is one of the main things that will change the gameplay. The fact that you get 360 control of the map, it's a pretty big deal. I'm just mentioning it here, but it's a pretty big deal. The working area has a work building and a school building for the kids, which will actually have more consistent schedule from 11 AM to 1 PM, as children will grow into adults after a few weeks instead of like 2 days. It will be cool to catch the children doing school stuff together every now and then, and maybe if there's enough children, they could, for example, run a school festival. The basketball court and gym should all be open all day, and any other things you can see like the running course, which is here, but you cannot see it, but it's here. They should be open all day too. Not all Miis will work at the office building, mind you. Some will move to the shopping district to do their jobs occasionally, and you'll see them when you go purchase items. Know that Miis don't have a set job. They'll select what they want to do each day, and jobs can be stuff like working in the morning and afternoon markets. There's a little incline close to the office building that isn't too tall, and the sea below is surrounded by rocks, so you might also see Miis hang around there to swim, fish, play, canoe, all of those water activities. Just hang around. The last thing I have to talk about is the pier. Well, you see ships during the day and a bustling fair at night for your Miis to enjoy and have fun with. Night market and some minigames included. It's gonna be cool. Let's just simply be thankful that this tide just so happens to never change at night. This is the island for Tomodachi companions as I envision it. It is very detailed. Need I mention this beautiful custom 3D model that other creators will be too lazy to do unless they hired someone? Need I mention the big red button which you should have tapped in the last few minutes? It's not perfect, I know, but I really tried my best, and I would appreciate your support in making this video reach more people, because come on, but look at this work, I put a lot of work into it! So, of course, the island right now will seem strange to you, because, yes, the bit is over, and only a few people will get the bit. This island was designed with this new main gameplay mechanic of zooming into everything in mind, but there's a second thing. An even larger main gameplay mechanic of Tomodachi companions. Introducing Mii Behaviors. Miis now have some form of schedule they follow every day, although some personalities change how they will react to the schedule. Say goodbye to Miis teleporting, Miis will now walk along the island, like so.
Oh, what's up, my lookalike? I'm finally free from work. Thanks. I'll save this for when I get home.
Don't worry, going from the pier to the apartment, that's the longest route you could take across the island, will only take about 10 minutes. That really doesn't matter anyways because you can just interact with them whatever. If they're walking, you get to this walking screen I showed you. If they're working, they'll just simply be in the break room or something. I don't know, use your imagination. You will always have access to the Miis as the player, but if you give them the chance, they will do things throughout the day. These screens here, for example, are simply pocket dimensions. Mii Personalities now matter more because these will dictate how often they stick to the schedule and the times they take across the island. Certain Miis will prefer the longer routes, while some others will take shortcuts. Introverted Miis might go home after the job, while energetic Miis might take a detour to go shopping or waste time before getting to their homes. Charmer Miis might choose to eat your food gifts right away, and Free Spirit Miis might be okay with switching clothes while on the walk. A lot of behaviors will be selected from qualities of the Miis, but going through all of them would take forever. So say, as an example, married Miis should go shopping if they got out of work and their partner hasn't done it for them. Or maybe kids will secretly ditch school and mess around instead. I enjoy the idea of Miis choosing to walk around together, maybe even have them make plans for a later apartment visit at night. Or maybe you'll see them rushing to work after sleeping late? They'll still have that very fictional and virtual quality to them where they really don't have finances, grades or anything. It's just a bunch of fun ideas to make the simulated Tomodachi Companions universe more realistic. Right, so each day, Miis will create their day schedule with time for states such as being free, walking, working, relaxing, or hobbying, among others. There's a thing about game design that people don't tell you on YouTube ever, but game design evolves with development, so features are discarded or added as you go on, and the initial plans, which is what I'm underlining here, is not what will get to be in the final product. It is simply a starting point, not the destination point. There are a few rules Miis will follow, but most importantly, Miis will work 3 hours of the random allotted work hours, and they'll be free before and after to allocate time for whatever other activities or states they like to do. Your Mii schedule will be inconsistent every day, so players should be sure to have lots of Miis to increase the chances of said Miis having friends to hang out with or work together with at any given time in case their friends are busy at that time. Most importantly, they'll allot some time for hobbying. Remember that I mentioned fishing and the talent development kiosk? Well, that's because your Miis now have a second leveling bar called the Mastery Bar for every possible talent, which dictates how good they are at a hobby they have. Every day you'll get a budget of the points that you can spend on your Miis through the talent development building for them to work on improving their talents. Each Mii will pick 3 talents based on personality and the gifts you give them, later spending their afternoon doing those hobbies. They'll learn different behaviors from the hobbies based on the level they reached at the hobby, so each Mii will develop differently from the others. To be clear, they will always do their hobbies, but spending these budget points will make them speed up the process. As for hobbies, there will be many, like photography, cinematography, music, fishing, electrics, pet care, archaeology, athleticism, cooking, authoring, vanity, sporting, and gaming, just as simple examples. And each would bring boons and different gameplay unlocks. So for example, while every Mii can make music, only Miis with a talent for music can unlock more musical styles, or that shuffling option I've discussed earlier. If you're wondering what an electrical Mii is, yeah, it's electrical engineering, but I suck at saying electrical engineer, so The catch here is that you can make Miis work together, so a talentless musician will be able to use all of the music styles with the help of a musician and develop that talent even if it isn't their hobby, to use for whatever behaviors they want alone or pass them along to some other Mii. A Mii will never beat its teacher friend unless the teacher is maxed out at that hobby, by the way. Add to that, getting several Miis with the same hobby together can unlock stuff even further. Cooking Miis might provide more food options for you to buy in the market, and might even run a more successful morning market if given the chance. They'll even go to the food store more and choose to work at a restaurant or food shop more often. Vanity Miis will dance, do yoga, and unlock the makeup options. The higher the level, the more makeup you can apply. On that note, QR-coded Miis could break this a bit, but that's a minor problem. Either way, you'll need to unlock the tools to work with makeup. Not that QR Miis will become just as they did in Miitopia and not actual QRs. You actually get to know who the original artist of your Mii was, and you can't edit a shared Mii. I would personally limit the amount of makeup you can put to 40. I know it was really cool to see the very accurate Miis and stuff, but personally, as I already talked about, there's the whole fun aspect of making Miis be lookalikes, not straight up copies. It's fun to have a set of limited tools and be like, okay, what can I do with these tools and exploit that? As a difference of, okay, I have tools with no limitations, so I can do whatever I want. It's about following Nintendo's philosophy of what they think is fun with the limitations they imposed, while also getting people what they want to some scope. And so on and so forth. Petcare Miis will have pets and help other Miis with pets. Electronics might make technology allowing item selling to become faster. And then you could get unique events when you gather a bunch of Miis with a certain affinity and let them work together past a certain level. Maybe a bunch of experienced archaeologists could make contact with aliens. Athletes could go to the Olympics. Fishers can catch the golden ear. Artists may open their own art gallery. Not only would these be goals, but they would also motivate the player to have and develop more Miis every day. So the love tester now has the talent compatibility option, which should read the affinity between two people in a certain hobby. Some Miis will naturally be better at certain hobbies, so this is a nice way to check before you decide what hobby to give them. Yeah, I was in the middle of something. Hold on. Yeah. Here. They would also motivate the player to have and develop more Miis every day. So Miis have hobbies. What I want to get to is minigames. We can tie these minigames to the Mii's hobbies. So a Mii with a gaming hobby would ask you for minigames that have something to do with gaming. This could also apply to where in space Mii's are located. So if they're in the park, they may ask for a rock skipping minigame, or if they're while on a walk, they might ask for, I don't know, a race minigame or something. Point is, I want the minigames to be more situational so that there is more variety, and thus we get to push the player to have a little bit more variety in their island and their choices of what hobbies and what Miis to bring into the island. It goes without saying that a lot of the minigames that were already in the original game that have nothing to do with any hobbies can just be general, so core features of the original game are still here. Troubles, wishing to play, dreaming, they're all still part of the game. They might even have troubles while at work being bored, or maybe they'll lose an item on their bush while on a walk. There's many possibilities to work with the new mechanics while incorporating the old ones, and even more could be added as DLC. Miis might ask for hobby-related issues now too, which have a different logo. With your Miis all over the place, I think I should also point out that the island overview scene should have a slide-up menu that allows you to find Miis by name or order of addition. They should make it easy to accompany a Mii throughout its daily routine. I must say that even though I showed this on the two mock-up menus I've shown, I think it is important to mention that the game should have mostly slide-up menus, not only for the immersiveness of touch and drag. After all, buttons should still exist because the Switch is a hybrid console and it can be played docked, and you can touch on the dock screen, you know, kind of obvious. And the reason for doing this light up menu thing is because I really don't like it when Tomodachi games don't have Miis on the screen and you can't see them. Before you could just put them on the second screen, but that is no longer an option, so just simply scroll everything to the side and there you go. You still get the Mii, they still move, it's immersive, you don't lose anything, it's cool. And that will be all the main changes to Mii Behaviors, I guess. Ready to see Michael Cera babysit your baby? Cause that's a job they can pick now. Finally, game progression should be similar to Tomodachi Life, however, once there's 30 Miis on the island, unlocks should be based on quality of life. These statues here that I put will grow with it, so you have a visual style instead of an uncomfortable number, though the uncomfortable number should still be found on like the town hall or something, just to have the specific metric and the more visual metric for people to just kinda gaze at it and be done with it. Also, most buildings should be able to have a personal update. The clothing shop should slowly unlock more options, and the food shop, as I already talked about with the cooking Miis, should sell more items when chefs do a lot of chefing. It should not take 100 Miis for everything to be unlocked, but you should want 100 Miis to truly experience a buzzing island life. This is my vision for Tomodachi Companions. Gameplay loops that stretch throughout the day and through multiple days, bringing Tomodachi Life to a whole new level, as a life simulator where you accompany your friends and truly feel like you're changing their lives. Still as quirky, still as unique, but way more fun than before. I would not trust my vision. Nintendo just wouldn't do it. But a guy can dream, right? On the note of things that are completely unrelated but I should have discussed, the music. It should remain being quirky and heavily synthesized. Always friendly and evoking a feeling of no strings attached. Unless you are on a dream or something, then it would make sense. Basically, get Daisuke Matsuoka and have him work with Daisuke Shiba. Just get him back. Matsuoka-san has made this soundtrack, so tell me I'm wrong. And Shiba-san made the daytime theme for Tomodachi Collection, which tell me I'm wrong. And that's all I'm saying when it comes to gameplay, because you gotta admit this is already pretty large scope. Most important point, which would regularly go at the beginning, but I put it at the end because it would make for bad content. Will it sell? We are running a business here, so it is really important. Regardless of any of my ideas, if it would sell, it should be worthwhile for Nintendo. I don't care if my ideas are met, I just want more Tomodachi and on the Switch. That'd be cool. Let's look at some relevant data, shall we? The original Miitopia, the Tomodachi Life spiritual successor, sold 1,180,000 copies in its lifetime before its Switch release. But upon being ported to the Switch, it sold 1,635,000 copies in a year. Not to mention it ranked number 2 on the weekly chart, below the AAA Resident Evil Village, beating several Nintendo usual top sellers. Considering Tomodachi Life sold 6,680,000 copies in its lifetime, and that the Switch port of Miitopia sold 38% more copies than the original game, we're looking at 10 million potential sales. That's about as much as the full budget Luigi's Mansion 3 got, while Tomodachi Companions would be a simple mid-budget game. Now that's not to say because the sales numbers of a thing are higher by certain percent, the sales numbers of another thing will be higher by that exact certain percent. That is not how marketing works. I am simply showing this as proof of popularity, proof of demand. People want this, there is a reason for it, we should give it to them. Nintendo, you should give it to them. Not me, I'm not Nintendo. Nintendo, come on Nintendo. This is directly to you, I'm talking directly to you, Doc Bowser. What the fuck? Just what the fuck? I mean, you thought I was gonna say something? No, just what the fuck are you doing with the company? So yes, it will sell and it will be profitable. Like this video, let's go!